In today's pod, Sumeet and Barjinder join me to recap the Milwaukee Bucks' stunning come from behind Game 4 victory to tie the NBA Finals at 2-2. We covered game plans, player performances, and Shashank joins us later in the pod to discuss some NBA news and gossip. I'm Param, and this is Operation 6. And we're back.
Yep.
Just watched Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Milwaukee took it 109-103.
Yeah.
And this was probably the first competitive game of the series.
Well, they were all obviously competitive, but yeah, this was the closest game of the series.
That was a good game to watch, man.
For sure.
I think the storyline from this game obviously is the foul trouble for the Suns. That's Ayton, that's Booker,
No.
and that's also Crowder. All of them were in foul trouble all game long.
PJ Tucker was too for the Bucks. So I mean, I guess they were playing a little more aggressive, both teams, but I guess also the refs were just blowing the whistle more.
CP3 struggled tonight. He had only 10 points on 5 of 13 shooting, but Booker turned it around. He had 42 points, 7 of 28 shooting. So he had himself a game. If they win, that probably propels him into the Finals MVP conversation.
Yeah.
But not meant to be for the Suns tonight. Ayton struggled, Bridges struggled, Chris Paul struggled.
Yeah,
Devin Booker
speaking
was
on Ayton too. I'm saying you're talking when we were watching the game. You're saying how Ayton just looked nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked very nervous at points. I felt like when he caught the ball at the end of the second quarter for that buzzer beater, he kind of stuttered his feet, didn't know what to do with it. He did that hook shot over the left shoulder with the right hand where it looked like he chicken winged it. And then he had a couple of other plays where he just caught the ball and he was indecisive with it. And it kind of stagnated whatever advantage they had created for him. And I think he just needs to be more confident and more aggressive because he's been really great this series when he's been confident, especially last game, even though he was in foul trouble last game as well. He had 18 points in that first quarter and was just being a beast. And I'm not going to say he wasn't a beast today. He had 17 boards, 3 blocks, 5 assists. He was a monster, especially on the glass, but I feel like they need more from him.
Surprisingly enough, I'm going to be crediting the Bucks in the fact that they did make the adjustment in putting Giannis on Ayton more, which was a very good adjustment in my opinion. I feel like Giannis played Ayton very well. Like he was able to contain him a lot more versus Lopez being the pick and roll every time, you know?
I feel like Ayton he has all the tools and he's shown it. It's just a matter of CP3 struggling, which kind of also caused Ayton to struggle. Because if you think about it, Ayton gets 80% of his offense off of CP3.
Yeah.
And when Booker has the ball, like you can see it in the stats, he had 2 assists tonight. Booker, when he gets the ball, it's his sole purpose is to get the ball and put it in the basket. And I feel like he needs to do as much as he did. He had 42 points. I think he needs to use his scoring threat a little bit more in the playmaking realm.
Yep.
To make his teammates better because they really couldn't generate good looks. And even Booker didn't generate good looks. He just made tough shots, which credit to him and Middleton both did. And it was a duel for the ages between the two of them. Looking at the stats here, the Suns won the third quarter 30-24, and the game was tied at the end of the third. They were up 6 at the end of and then the Milwaukee Bucks won the fourth quarter 33-21. So they made their big run at the end of the game, and Middleton hit some tough shots.
Yeah.
But I think the Suns lost this game. I don't think the Bucks won it because
I feel like
the Suns made a lot of mistakes tonight.
There's 2 ways of looking at it because if you look at the Suns, it was Devin Booker and very few other people, versus it was for the Bucks. It was Middleton and Giannis, and Drew Holiday played. Drew Holiday actually was Drew Bledsoe again today, so that's another thing.
4 of 20, Drew Holiday.
Yeah, he's probably gonna put up another stinker the next game because they're going to be back in Phoenix. And then
Yeah.
Brook Lopez played an okay game. I mean,
They kind of played him off the
5
floor.
3. Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
CP only really scored when Brook Lopez was his matchup, but in the second half they went away from Brook Lopez. They went to Tucker, and the problem there with Tucker is tonight he played 29 minutes and gave you 0 points. He gave you 5 boards. He gave you an assist and a steal, but he had 5 fouls, and he had in 29 minutes he didn't give you anything on the offense. So at some point, I don't know what they're supposed to do in that situation, but Tucker just isn't it right now in terms of offensive creation, and they won the game despite that today, I feel like.
Yeah, neither is Jeff Teague. Not Jeff Teague. Yeah, Jeff Teague is the garbage shoe. It sucks that they have to play him. But Bobby Portis also just isn't it.
He had 20 minutes, 3 points, 1 of 6.
Yeah, he had that corner 3. I'm pretty sure it was first quarter.
Yeah.
Yo, but the Bucks though. I remember. I think it was in the first quarter or second quarter. I cannot remember, but it was at the end of the first quarter. Like the Bucks are going for 2s because like it's about to be like the quarter's about to be over, and Jeff Teague's wide open in the quarter, but the Bucks aren't just giving him the ball.
They don't trust him.
Yeah,
they don't trust him, and I wouldn't. Why would you trust Jeff Teague? What has he done that shows you that he could be a good shooter even out of the corner? Nothing does really, and whatever play they made, I think they took a tough shot. It was probably a better decision than giving the ball to him because outside of breaking the defense a little bit and getting inside the cracks of the defense, he doesn't really give you much.
Yeah. He had one really good year in Atlanta, and then like a few like solid years as like an okay starting point guard. And then now he's just kind of falling off. He doesn't really have much of a purpose.
Another big storyline from the game, I feel like, was Booker's foul trouble. I mentioned at the beginning of the game, but specifically, the refs were very reluctant to call against him at the end of the fourth. He had one play where he hacked Drew Holiday, and the Bucks came out with a layup. They got lucky on that one, but I think that the refs were just scared to call Booker for a foul. And then again at the end of the game, with a minute left, he fouled Middleton, but they didn't call it because they just don't. I don't feel like the refs want to go through that.
Yeah, I feel like the refs in the NBA, I feel like sometimes do more than they need to, like than what their job says. Like
their job is to call the game, and I feel like sometimes they're playing this cat and mouse game that they don't need to. Just, if it's a foul, call it. If it's not a foul, don't call it. Ignore what the players are saying. Ignore what the fans are saying.
It's so hard to do. I don't blame them.
Ref the game in a vacuum. You can't let the outside world affect how you're refereeing the game, because at the end of the day, the results, I would say it did go in the way they were supposed to, because Phoenix struggled in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But the refereeing was pretty sloppy tonight.
Yeah, like I remember watching a clip of like Allen Iverson complaining about a play, and then the ref is like, "Oh, I had to control the crowd," and then Allen was like, "Why are you controlling the crowd? That's our job."
Yeah, it's not their job to control the crowd. If the refs are focusing on controlling the crowd, they're gonna make the wrong calls.
Yep. It's a terrible way of refing the game.
The Bucks made a lot of defensive errors also early, I felt like, and they cleaned it up a lot by the end. Yeah. They were giving up a lot of open shots in the first half. Namely, they gave an easy, wide open layup to Chris Paul at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, they also
Ayton got an easy pick and roll dunk. Crowder had a wide open 3 where no one was guarding him, and then Payne got through the cracks of the defense for a midi. Yep. And they cleaned that up in the second half. I felt like the Suns were struggling to get good looks, and Booker, their only offense that they had was Booker hitting tough shots, which he does, and they rely on him to do. But if you're not getting good shots in that, then you lose, which is what happened tonight. They lost by 6.
The Bucks, they definitely gave up a lot of easy points to the Suns. I do agree with that, but I don't know, man. There's just something about the Bucks, like their late game offense, and just like how they like at the end, like they just come through. It's just beautiful to watch, you know.
It's Middleton mainly.
It was beautiful. It was definitely beautiful to watch, but at the same time, I don't trust Chris Middleton to do that back-to-back games. And the only way I see the Bucks winning is if Chris Middleton does that.
But Chris Middleton, once in every series, will have that game. And if I'm the Bucks, I'm kind of scared because he already had that game tonight. And as the Bucks, they're probably not wondering if Chris Middleton can have it again. But as Bucks fans, you gotta be wondering if this guy can give you another 40 piece. And I don't think he can.
Yeah.
I think this was the one that he had. And now going back to Phoenix, Phoenix needs to win it. It's a series. The game 5 is usually a series changing game, especially when it's 2-2. So whoever wins this game will propel themselves into the position of winning the series. And the Suns are going to be at home, so no road team has won a game yet, and the series starts when the road team wins. And I don't think that's going to happen in game 5.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you guys. So you remember that play where Devin Booker lobbed it up to Ayton and then Giannis came for the clutch block, right?
Yeah. The chase down, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your point of view on like what I'm about to ask you is like if Giannis could not have gotten there, let's say Ayton got that dunk, do Suns win the game?
I think that's a momentum changing play because that's what dunks are. But Giannis getting that block is what gave them the momentum. So I wouldn't say that it changed the game. I think if it wasn't a block, it would have been a foul. And on the road, fouls can kill the crowd.
Yeah.
And kill the momentum a team has built. So I think, it could have changed the game, but I think the mistakes the Suns made, especially CP3 losing the ball near the end, that was reminiscent of him against OKC in 2014 in the Game 7, where he dribbled off of his foot, and he did it again tonight. He's done it multiple times in his career, where in big games, despite him being one of the best players in terms of not turning the ball over, in big games, he has historically turned the ball over in critical possessions.
And then in big games, he's also came through big time. So you never really know. You can't just count.
Yeah, you never really know with him. I think tonight on the road had nothing to do with him because it's Chris Paul. He's a 16-year veteran. I don't think being on the road is what the issue was. But Drew Holiday, despite his 4 of 20, holding Chris Paul to 10 points, I think that's where his value comes from. And sometimes we clown him for being, Drew Bledsoe, but he really did play lockdown defense from Chris Paul, and he gave him fits tonight. But let's see, maybe in the home crowd, at the home energy, Chris Paul hits some tough shots, gives him more than 10 points. He hasn't in game 3. Neither Booker or CP cracked 20. This game, Booker had 42. CP barely cracked double digits. He had 10 points. So I think. With CP and Ayton giving them more next game, I think they're in position to win. And then role players play better at home. So,
I definitely think the Suns going back home now. I definitely see the Suns winning. I did say Suns were going to sweep, but obviously that didn't happen. So I definitely think Suns can win in 6, right? But I have a question for you guys. What do you guys think about? Like, I think it was the third quarter where if you're just watching the game, you can see like a lot of the players were just like being really rough with each other. What do you think? What's your like?
I think it's just playoff basketball, man. I don't think we should read too much into it because historically, especially when you get to the finals, the refs let you get away with more physical stuff, and that even just as like a street ball player, when we play out on the driveway. There's a lot of nudging. There's a lot of pushing and shoving. And that, for me, that's the part of the game I love personally. Yeah. So if the refs start calling against that, it would kind of kill my vibe watching the games because I love the whole bickering at each other, the trash talk, the pushing and shoving, the slight elbowing. Sometimes it gets out of control, but sometimes they'll throw those elbows around. To nudge you a little bit.
Yeah, it's not like it's not
malicious.
It's not like Detroit Bad Boys era basketball. That was just too much.
And that stuff, sometimes it works. PJ Tucker nudged Booker one time, and Booker picked up his 5th foul, pushing him for no reason because he just lost his cool for a second. And that's what those kind of plays can do for a team.
Yeah.
And I think if Booker doesn't pick up that foul, then they definitely call the Drew Holiday foul later in the game. But Booker should have been fouled out. Like he played 3 minutes more than he should have.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that's just my take on it, to be honest. And despite him being in, they still lost. And I think it was their game to win, to be honest.
Yep, for sure.
I wanna bring up just talking about the Bucks center, man. Yo, Brick Lopez, man. This guy
Brick
0 for
Lopez.
5 from the three, man.
It's
He had
garbage.
some good looks from three. I can't even lie, but like
He's overrated
the
from
shot
three.
just wasn't there, man. I don't know what he was doing.
He's
Oh,
extremely
what he was looking
overrated,
at.
and what he was doing was what Bud wants him to do, which is to shoot threes. But at some point, like that ain't it. And they realized they pulled him out. He didn't play much in the second half. He had 19 minutes on the game, and I think that was a good adjustment on their part. One of the few adjustments they've made.
They're definitely regretting not re-signing Malcolm Brogdon a few years ago. They're regretting that.
But I think this is just a wasted game for Phoenix. Like I wrote this down in the third quarter, 7 minutes in, so 5 minutes left in the third. The Bucks started the third quarter 1 of 10 from the field, and I think that's where Phoenix had the stranglehold. And if they could just close it out there, maybe the Bucks don't even play their stars in the fourth quarter because they were down, I would say, about 12 or 14, and it looked like the Suns were about to take it, and then they just gave it up.
Yeah.
And part of that was Chris Paul and Ayton struggling, and they struggled because of each other. If one's struggling, the other will struggle inherently because they create the game for each other. So we'll see. We'll definitely see a different. I said after game 3 that Booker will have a game, and he did tonight. He had 42. So I'm going to say it right now. CP3 and Ayton are not going to play as poorly as they did tonight. Them three combined will give you another at least 70 points next game.
I feel like once Bobby Portis comes in and if DeAndre Ayton's still on the court, he should just try and eat because I don't think Bobby Portis is a good enough defender to really stop DeAndre Ayton.
He's not. He's definitely not. DeAndre Ayton has all the moves. He has the full package in the post. It's just a matter of putting it all together, and CP3 helps him do that. So
yeah, with like Bobby Portis against CP3 and DeAndre Ayton, there's no way he's stopping that.
He's not stopping any of that. Portis is an energy guy, and the fans feed into that.
Yeah.
But on the road, I don't think he's going to give him anything, to be honest, because they don't even have fans. So he's not even giving you that energy.
For sure. I mean, he's also. I mean, he does also like just also. He's their dog, right? He's their like junkyard dog, I guess you could say. But it doesn't really take it. It doesn't really help on the road.
Yeah. So another one of the big things that throughout the playoffs, not just in this game that you see, is Giannis setting screens. So I have a statistic for you guys.
Yep.
9 of Giannis's 10 games with the most set screens are in these playoffs.
That was another really.
It just goes to show that he has that. He made that shift from the LeBron type attack downhill player to that Anthony Davis type rolling slashing big man. And I think that's the role that suits him in the long term because that puts less, number one, pressure on his body trying to get to the basket. Number 2, it creates good shots for his teammates off his screens. And number 3, his rolling gravity. Like you have to help from the corners, whichever side of the paint he's cutting on with the roll. That corner has to help, and it just creates open threes out of the corners for the PJ Tuckers, the Connaughtons, the Forbes of the world.
Yeah.
Brook Lopez got a few of those. He missed them, but they're starting to use Giannis the way that the man above intended him to be used. That's where his physical-ish nature comes into play. Is on those.
Yeah, because like you saw when he used to just like try and like just barrel himself into the paint. He would just go back and forth like it was a game of 2K, right? Like, he didn't really create any offense. No one had to like get off of him because you had a guy like DeAndre Ayton. He's big enough to stop him with that, you know? And it's not like he has any jumper to threaten you with. But when he's rolling, he can grab the ball and he hasn't even dribbled yet. So he has even more options as to what
his full autonomy to do whatever he wants. And when he's rolling and his teammates miss a shot, he can crash the glass, get putbacks, kick it out. There's just so much they can create out of those situations, I feel like.
It's just a way better way of running an offense because it's actually an offensive system.
All right, so the next thing I have for you guys, so Devin Booker in the first 3 games shot under 50%, and he's shot 50% every game since he broke his nose. So tonight is the first game that he broke that streak. He was 17 of 28 from the field for 61%, 60.7%, so roughly 61% from the field. and it looks like he broke out of his slump. But
Yeah.
you could tell that broken nose was bothering him a lot earlier in the series.
Yeah, it probably
I'm pretty
affects
sure-
the way, like the contest definitely affected more because of the broken nose.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this game as well, like I'm pretty sure a Bucks player ended up like just like nudging him in the nose or something like that. Because I remember when he was off, like before he got off, I think it was like first quarter or second quarter. Yeah, he was like touching his nose or something like that. Because I don't know.
That hurts, man.
Yeah,
And if you're an NBA player, like a lot of NBA players do this, if a player has like a hurt arm or a hurt wrist, they'll attack that side of the body, slap the arm and stuff. In this case, they'll have their arms up just to inadvertently, or not in, I guess it is advertently, trying to hit him in the face to make his
Make-
nose hurt
making
more,
it
make it
s-
just uncomfortable.
Making
It's
it
just
seem
gamesmanship,
making it
Yeah.
seem like it's inadvertent.
making it seem like it's inadvertent. Yeah.
man, I feel bad
and
for Jay
then-
Crowder, man. Jay Crowder, this guy, you got like hit in the eye twice, and then like Giannis
Yeah.
just full on slapped his face, man.
Yeah, he takes a beating. Like his job is always to guard those rough and tumble guys like Giannis, LeBron, Ben Simmons. He's the one that is assigned those matchups, and he's the one that wants those matchups. Let's be real. Like Jay
Yeah.
Crowder wants all the smoke, but sometimes he gets too much of it and he gets hit, and it just kind of sucks because it messes with their shooting too. You're coming
Yeah.
down the floor, and that's like 2 possessions gone where you got poked in the eye, and you can't even open your eye, and then you catch the ball, and you're supposed to do something with it, and it's just very.
Yeah.
But it's a part of the game. You can't really complain about it.
That just shows why a team's best offensive player doesn't usually never guards the other team's best offensive player, because then they're gonna be completely burnt out for playing offense.
Which is why Giannis didn't guard KD earlier in the playoffs,
Yeah,
because Giannis is doing so much, giving you 40 and 15 on one end, that if you wanted to guard KD as well, then by the middle of the third quarter, his legs are going to be shot and he won't be able to do anything anymore.
yep.
Just chasing KD off the screens and stuff. Another big observation, and this is something that Barjinder said the first 3 games every single time, and I found the statistic behind it. So Phoenix was last in the regular season in terms of their total field goal percentage, the chunk of their total field goal percentage attempted in the paint. They had 27.2% of their shot attempts within 6 feet in the restricted area. They were last with that number at 27.2. You guys want to know what the Phoenix Suns number right now is?
What?
They were last at 27.2% of their attempts in the paint. Now they're down even further to 23.7. So they're attacking even less
Wow,
than they were in the regular season. And they're
That's
already
actually-
last in terms of.
that's crazy. They're basically a more refined version of the Houston Rockets. They're like a better Capella.
No, I wouldn't compare them to that, because the Houston Rockets were getting into the paint. Their game was threes and layups, whereas this team, their 2 best attackers in terms of getting past the first line of the defense, breaking down defenders, are Booker and CP, obviously, and those guys are adept mid-range shooters. So those
Yeah.
shots are just ending up in the mid-range.
Mhm.
And tonight it didn't work, but that does work typically. I just feel like they need to get Ayton more looks down low, and they need to get Bridges off of cuts down low more. I think they missed him on a couple of cuts tonight where he
Yeah,
could have had dunks and layups, but they just need to be more aggressive going downhill, and they can create mid ranges out of that and create threes out of that. But they have to get their bigs in the paint and get it going.
yeah.
And then before we end this segment of the pod, I have a crazy stat for you guys. So the Suns in the preseason had plus 6,000 odds for not making the finals, for winning the championship. If the Suns win the championship this year, those will be by far the worst preseason odds on which a team won a championship.
That just goes to show anything is possible, like KG said.
Yep, anything is
Yeah.
possible, but I also think that teams underrated them a little bit because they called Chris Paul old. They said Booker is just, a numbers guy. He's not a winner. And then Ayton was getting harassed,
Yeah,
and all 3 of them, and CP included in those 3, took their game to another level. And CP's always been great, but this postseason he really did take his game to another level. I think you didn't see that tonight with either of him or Eaton. But Booker is not a numbers guy. Booker is a winner,
Yeah.
and his demeanor on the court shows it.
For
He
me,
had that mean mug, angry look on him. Like he wanted to win this game.
people definitely underestimated how good CP3 still was and his effect on the team. But also, you have to think about like James Harden lost with CP3 on his team, and
Mhm.
he's definitely, he's definitely better than Devin Booker, but he still wasn't able to win with CP3, and I feel like that's because James Harden just wants to do his thing. He doesn't want someone in his ear all the time, whereas Devin Booker welcomes that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Devin Booker, the difference is Devin Booker is very young, so he needs
Yeah.
that guidance. And him and Monty did a great job of taking that scoring punch that Booker has and putting it into a winning situation.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
Booker's thriving right now, especially tonight, 42 points. Like he had a game for the ages, and I think he's going to keep it up in the next game.
For sure. I mean,
Yeah,
he's definitely going to need to.
I'm really excited to see the next game because,
The
I can't
next
even
game's
lie.
gonna be
Devin
fun.
Booker walking off the court, you can just tell he had a fire in his eye, and like I feel like next game he's just gonna fucking bring it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he's going to bring all the smoke next game, but this is starting to look more and more and more like a 7-game series. I think it will
Yeah.
go all the way, and I think their whole team will win every single game, which places Phoenix in a position where they have 2 games at home, so they do have the advantage in the rest of the series, but that's gone if they don't win in game 5. So they need to.
Oh, they're very much screwed if they don't win game 5.
If they don't take game 5, I think the Bucks will finish it at home, but I think they will take game 5 and they'll bring it back home to close it up in game 7.
Honestly, I feel like it'll be pretty satisfying for either team to win this series.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, actually, the Bucks are definitely the dumbest team to make it to the finals. So in that way, it's definitely not satisfying. It's just kind of like, what are we doing at this point?
Yeah.
It'll just go to show how like the injuries really messed up the season, because if it weren't for the injuries, the Bucks wouldn't even be in the finals.
Yeah, I think if it weren't for the injuries, the Nets would they would have already swept. The series would have been over, and we would have crowned the Nets the champion. But that's an alternate reality, and that's not the opinion. So we're gonna have a game 5 in a couple nights. I'm excited for it.
Same.
All
right, so we're gonna take a break, and we'll be back in a few minutes. All right, so we're back for the news portion of the podcast. I'm gonna get right into it because there's a lot to talk about tonight. The first major storyline outside of the NBA Finals that's happening right now is Kawhi Leonard just underwent his ACL surgery in his right knee for a partially torn ACL. What implications do you guys think that'll have on the next season and the Clippers' future going forward?
Depending on obviously the severity of the injury, that will determine how badly it affects the Clippers. But I feel like it completely destroys any potential chance of them winning the championship. And they may want to shake up their team a little bit if that's the case. And even if it isn't, maybe they stick it out one more year, but then I still don't see them winning the championship.
Well, this next year is going to be gone because historically ACL injuries take 9 months to recover from. So if he does hit that on the head with that mark and gets back exactly at that 9-month return period, that places him right at the middle of April, which means that the playoff will just be starting as he gets back. And I don't see him playing playoff basketball at a high level right off of an ACL surgery. So I think next season is gone for them. And they may not even be in the playoff race at all.
And on top of that, he's already beefing the Clippers health management, like the health team, with all their doctors and everything, just like the way he did to the Spurs. Yeah.
I think the only team that did a good job with that was ours.
Yeah, Raptors.
We let him, and the key is, with our team, we had playmakers and scorers at the secondary level, at the third level, fourth level. We had deeper and deeper scoring options, and defensive stoppers. So that allowed us to, let's say, okay, Kawhi, you can sit for 16 games or whatever it was that year and just chill. And they still did well in those games. And I don't think the Clippers can do that for an extended 72 game period, or now 82 game period. So
Yeah,
I think the Clippers are in big trouble.
Honestly, talking about Kawhi, yo, I'm gonna be real. This guy fumbled the fucking bag when I talk about like, yo, this guy should have stayed with the Raptors.
Yeah.
Bro, what NBA player where the city offers free food and free housing to them?
Yo,
I know,
so
but
fast.
the Kawhi situation was one that was very
Kawhi and Dine.
Kawhi and Dine, but his situation was unique because the whole reason he went to the Clippers is because he wanted to go back home. So I respect that.
Yeah.
And it makes sense why he did it, because he has 2 rings, and honestly, he's pretty set in stone as an NBA Hall of Famer or a basketball Hall of Famer. But I think Bar's right. In terms of winning championships, I think he's in the perfect situation. And I think last year we could have won a championship and defended it with him. I think this year, with what happened to the Nets and how dumb the Bucks have been at times, I think again that we could have potentially, there's a world in which we could have been on a repeat looking for a 3-peat with him, and he would have been on his Jordan then. Those Jordan comparisons would have been real by then, but it's just not meant to be, I guess. And the Clipper curse, man, that is just amazing. They lost.
They need to move the hell out of LA, man.
Yeah. Well, the Clipper curse though, like they lost CP in 2 different playoffs. 2014 they lost. 2015 they lost CP and Blake. 2016 they lost CP.
Yeah.
And like, it's just this year they lose Kawhi. Last year they lost Paul George in terms of he just was non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
And the Clipper curse is just real right now, and there's nothing they can do to avoid it. But in terms of Kawhi, he could sign this offseason for 1 year and see his future, or he could sign a 4-year 175 million over the next 4 years. But he's Kawhi Leonard, so I think the way he was going to go is take that player option for 36 million. And the next offseason, since he'll have played 3 years, no, he won't play next year, but he'll be under contract for the Clippers for 3 straight years. He'll have bird rights, which means they can go give him the Supermax. And his Supermax is 246 for 5 years. So either way, Kawhi's going to get his money.
He's worth it.
Yeah.
And he's worth it, but the ACL injury, players have recovered from it well in recent history.
Yeah.
But
I mean, recent advancements have definitely made it easier compared to what it was before, because before it was like they're still using like kind of like ancient techniques, just more refined. But now they actually have new technology and more research on how to fix it and like how to properly do all the recovery so it doesn't happen again, and so that the player comes back just as strong. But
before it's going to be tough.
Yeah,
like, I'm not worried about the Clip. I'm pretty sure they'll do just fine without Kawhi. I mean, even in the regular season, how many games did Kawhi miss? He missed a decent chunk. And they won most of those. I'm not worried about them getting into the playoffs. The only, like, I guess, area for the Clippers that I have doubt in is the playoffs, because, you know, it's fair to assume Kawhi's not going to be 100% right off of his, like, recovery, right? They might even make him play limited minutes, which is, you know, makes sense. But, you know, if they somehow manage to secure Reggie Jackson, the free
in his free agency,
the offseason, and on top of that, like, you know, Terrence Mann, this guy had a huge breakout season. So if he continues to develop, like, I'm not going to say it's over for the Clippers. They're probably not going to win a ring, but it's going to be fun watching them. I
think next year is going to be a building year for them in terms of figuring out how they want to play with what they have, because Kawhi, if he's 100% and they are in the playoff race, Kawhi is he's unique in the sense that he's just a plug and play. Like, defensively, he's going to lock up. He's going to rebound. Boardman gets paid, you know. He does his thing. And then offensively, his fadeaway isn't going to go anywhere. He can still attack. He has the intangibles on both ends of the floor. I think if they can tread water, then they can do damage in the playoffs. Definitely.
Yeah, that's if Kawhi comes back healthy, right? But I feel like in the offseason, the Clippers should try and find a trade for Patrick Beverley and Luke Kennard, because Luke Kennard is pretty solid on offense. Like, he's a really good jump shooter, but on defense, he's complete garbage. And then for Patrick Beverley, he's pretty much the complete opposite. So I feel like if they could ship. Sorry?
My bad. I was about to say his contract is kind of steep, so it's going to be hard finding teams that are.
I think that I was listening to Kevin O'Connor and his podcast with Chris Vernon, and they were talking about potential Kyle Lowry deal. And again, Kyle Lowry is getting thrown into every conversation, but this is another one that they're throwing him into. Beverly and Kennard for Kyle Lowry on a sign-in trade, and I think that is good for them in terms of what we were talking before, just being in the playoff race. And I think Lowry does that for you. So it's gonna be interesting where he ends up, where a lot of other players end up. And the next player, where he's in a lot of trade talks as well, Damian Lillard. So a story leaked earlier this week about the Warriors internally discussing a trade for Damian Lillard. Now, they have the better version of him already in Steph Curry, so I don't see what the purpose of that would be, and I don't see what they would use to get him. What do you guys think about that, Damian Lillard?
I mean, yeah,
the Warriors talking about Damian Lillard.
I really don't see any trade that makes sense, because unless you're trading Clay plus Wiseman,
that doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense, right? But that's the closest they can get to like a really good deal. And I'm still not trading for Clay because I have no idea what exactly I'm getting. He's still going to be a really good 3-point shooter, but past that, don't know exactly what I'm getting. He's probably not going to be as good off screens and stuff. And you don't know how good Wiseman is, and then you're going to throw in the pick on top of that, and then it looks kind of enticing. I still wouldn't do it.
I think Damian Lillard doesn't want to go there after the whole onslaught that Kevin Durant dealt with going there. But
Kevin Durant's thing was a bit different.
It was different. And in Dame's situation, the reason I feel like it's different is if Dame were to go there, he's just going home. Like, he's from the Bay Area, so he'd just be going home. But it's just interesting what their thought process is in talking about something like this, considering they have the player that created Dame Lillard in a sense with those deep threes in Steph Curry. That just doesn't make any sense.
Influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where, like, you hear Damian Lillard, kind of a bit iffy on the situation at what's it called? Portland. So, like, obviously you're going to hear teams try to be interested in arguably one of the better point guards in the league, right? But
for sure,
honestly, I still think Damian Lillard's going to stay in Portland. I don't see him leaving.
I don't see him leaving. I think if anybody's going to get moved, the Blazers would move Param and Nurkic and see what they're worth. And then they have a big salary in Covington as well, although I would want to keep him. He's a winning type of piece. But it's just interesting what they're going to do this offseason, because there's a lot of ways they could go. They could blow it up. They could build with Dame. They could build with CJ. So it's just interesting how they're going to proceed.
Are they going to re-sign Melo?
I don't think that really is an issue, because he's going to be a minimum contract player anyways. At this point,
do you think so? You don't think he's worth?
I could see a world in which a Charlotte Hornets gives him like $7 million, like $14 million for 2 years, just as a bench scorer. Yeah, and that would be valuable. The Melo has game still.
Oh yeah,
that's my favorite player. So obviously I'm biased, but it's just interesting to see.
He's still not wrong though on that. Like, he does actually still have the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a little bit more few and far between when you get like the good or bad Melo.
Yeah. And then, so the next big chunk of news I have, the Pelicans are unlikely to match the any max contract offer if Lonzo Ball does get that this offseason. And that's according to Shams Charania. Shams, very credible source. Breaks news all the time, him and Woj. And it's interesting that a bombshell like this drops, because if you guys don't know, earlier in the playoffs, kind of a storyline that went under the radar was that Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram love Lonzo Ball. That's their favorite teammate. They're all boys. So if you're the Pelicans and you're letting one of your star favorite players on the team go, Zion Williamson, the team is Lonzo,
That's
throws
not
him
good.
lobs. That's his guy. Like, and you're gonna trade him.
Yeah.
That doesn't go well for you in the future at all, considering that so many players have forced their way out of there already. Chris Paul forced his way out of New Orleans. Anthony Davis forced his way out of New Orleans.
I feel like
Boogie's situation was a bit different, but Boogie
That was
didn't
very
end up staying in New Orleans. There's a lot of star players that never ended up resigning there.
I feel like if you
And-
look at it objectively in terms of just the fit, it's very good because Lonzo's a very good defender. He's at this point, he's a very good 3-point shooter, a very good passer.
Yeah.
And he's
his
improving in
court
other,
vision.
yeah, and he's improving on the other parts of his game as well.
And
So
Zion
there's
is
no reason to not re-sign him because
I
the
think-
most I see him getting is like 20 or so million per year, and I feel like the Pelicans should have no problem matching that.
I think like Zion, obviously, if you give him the ball on the block, he's gonna get you buckets anyways. But Lonzo's vision enables Zion at another level, puts Zion on another level, because even in situations where there's no offense and it's hard to find a good shot, the lob from Lonzo to Zion is always there. It's
Yeah.
literally always there. And only players like Lonzo, they're few and far between, and only players like make those kind of plays. And those are win or lose type of plays. Those can win you a game. And if they let him go, they're letting go of a point guard that locks up on the perimeter, shoots in the high 30s, low 40s from three, and has
Yeah.
great court vision. So they can't let him go. That's just my opinion on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree, man. I feel like the entire young core that the Pelicans had, they were really fun to watch. Like
yeah.
BI.
David Griffin's
Fizz-
smarter than that to just let him walk. David Griffin's a great GM. I
Mhm.
don't think he's just going to let him walk. If
I really
anything
hope
does
not, man.
happen, if anything does happen, this isn't any reporting or anything. This is just me talking out of knowledge that I have about salary contracts. So his contract does match up pretty well with somebody on the Hornets, Terry Rozier. And I could see a world in which Terry Rozier and something else gets moved for Lonzo. And LaMelo and Lonzo were together. And then the Pelicans get a jump shooting guard that's good on defense, makes plays. And I think it's a positive. If you're going to give him up for nothing, not matching him, you might as well match and send him to play with his brother. And then you're sending him to the Eastern Conference. So you don't have to worry about giving him to another Western Conference rival.
Mhm.
The last big chunk of news, it's not even news, it's just for the 2K fanatics out there. The cover athletes were announced. Luka athlete is the standard edition cover athlete, and then Kevin Durant, Dirk Nowitzki, and Kareem are the 75th anniversary edition athletes. And what do you guys think about that?
Candace Parker is also
Candace Parker.
Yeah, she's on the WNBA cover. Like she's representing the WNBA.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's pretty dope.
And what do you guys think about those 5 athletes and their position?
I feel
Yeah,
like
I'm gonna be
Luka-
real. Oh yeah, you got it.
I feel like the Luka pick is very interesting. I think there's a few other people you could have gone with. Maybe Embiid. Maybe
I think Jokic should have got it.
yeah.
I saw the
definitely.
photo though. They got him doing the step back that like
That's crazy.
torched the
I like
fucking
that.
Clippers.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. That, as somebody that's been talking smack about the Clippers for months now, I love that. That's
Yeah.
what they put on the cover. That makes me so happy. But
Yo,
For sure.
imagine being on the cover after your third season.
yeah, third
Yeah.
season. He's going to his 4th year and he's already on the cover. I think that's unprecedented. Like, and
That's
that just goes to show the global impact he has. Like, NBA outside of basketball people, I don't know how popular he is, but basketball people see it and they're like, that's the Don himself, Don Luka. That's just really cool
Yeah.
to me.
I think Luca definitely deserves to be on the 2K cover, right?
Yeah.
for sure.
He's that type of player, you know?
Yeah. No, for sure.
Great.
He
Luka
has that
Magic.
star impact.
Yep. Who else
Um
did you say was on the cover?
so that's what's going right now. So Candace Parker is representing the WNBA. But on the
That's hype.
75th anniversary edition, they have Dirk and Kareem, which are historic players. But the interesting one to me is Kevin Durant because he's still in the league, but yet he's on the quote unquote legend edition cover. So
That's very odd. Yeah,
That's very odd to me.
you put like D Wade or someone on there,
Yeah, I would have wanted. That's who I would have wanted to see.
or
What about
just
Dirk?
keep it. Dirk is in there.
Yeah,
Put
but the thing
KG.
with
Put KG on there. Tim
I think
Duncan.
the thing
Maybe.
with D Wade is that D Wade was on the cover in the special edition just last year. So for them to put him back to back years or
Yeah.
2 years apart doesn't make any kind of sense, to be honest, in terms of the way they're trying to represent athletes right now.
Mhm.
And they're trying to give the next generation some love. So Zion, Giannis got it, Zion got it, and now Luka's getting it. And it's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
I like how Kareem's up there, man.
Yeah.
I actually really like that.
Yeah. And
One of
it's
my
kind of
favorite
crazy.
players.
If you look at the comparison between those two players on the floor, they had the 3 most unstoppable shots in the league, which is just crazy. Like, ironically, how that worked out. Or maybe that's what they were going for. I don't know. But Kareem with the sky hook, Dirk with his fade, and then Kevin Durant from everywhere. Just 3 of probably the most unstoppable scorers, and they're all on the same cover. That's just very cool, in my opinion. Like, that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
I feel like just in terms of like not having Kevin Durant there, maybe they could even just keep it all bigs and put like Shaq up there.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
What I'm getting at is that those 3 are they have the most unstoppable.
Yeah.
In terms of you can't block their shot, you can't stop them from scoring when they want to.
Yeah.
And though them 3, their signature moves, it's just kind of cool to have them on the same cover together.
Yeah.
Them 3 being those 3 players that are unstoppable like that. And before we close out the pod, I have one huge statistic that I just scrolled through Instagram and found. Devin Booker just tonight set the record for most points scored by a player in their first postseason. So that's another record broken by him.
That's just goes to show you how good he is. Like, he's dominant.
Dude, he was built for the playoffs.
Yeah.
To be honest.
It's crazy to think how just like last year before the bubble, I would say, people are saying how Booker is a good numbers, bad team guy, where he's just the number 1 option. That's why he's putting up good stats. And it's crazy to see how in less than 12 months, how that's flipped. The narrative switched where now we're calling him a playoff player. And I'm not one of the people that said, I always said, like, the situation he's in is terrible, so you can't blame him for putting up numbers.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell a guy, okay, because your team's ass, don't go out there and score 40. He's still going to go out and score 40. It doesn't change anything for them, right? But now
I feel
he's
like
scoring 40 with a purpose.
People didn't realize that the 2020 bubble was just foreshadowing what was going to come the next year. Because they were already really good.
They were already really good, but I think the Chris Paul dynamic, we can't forget how much he really does. He enables, I wouldn't say he enables Booker, because Booker is just Booker, man. He's going to go out there and get buckets no matter who his teammates are. But he enables the other guys. He gets Bridges going. He gets Crowder going. But the big one is Ayton. He gets Ayton going. Yeah. But yeah, Booker, man, he's on a tear. He had a rough game in game 3 with only 10 points, but he bounced back with 42 tonight. And it's just interesting to see with how young he is, the rest of his career, and where he ends up on the top scoring ranking, because he's going to be someone in the top 10 to finish his career for sure.
For sure.
I love his mid-range game, honestly.
Yeah, it's so classic.
It's so classy. It has that
shows you it's not dead yet.
Shows you it's not dead yet. And whoever says it's dead doesn't understand basketball, because if you look at the best players in the league, Chris Middleton won this game off of the mid-range. Devin Booker scored his 42, mostly in the mid-range. Chris Paul has been carrying the Suns a lot, mostly with the mid-range. Kevin Durant, Bucks with the mid-range.
You can't be a great scorer without a mid-range. And I feel like if you look back at the Houston Rockets, they handicapped themselves by not shooting mid-ranges, because he said to take the open shot. 2 is better than 0, because you're going to fiend for like a 3-point shot or a bucket like right next to the rim, and then you're just going to give up an open mid-range and you gain nothing.
Yeah, and I'm just going to close it out with a nugget really quickly. The whole situation where they let Melo go because he shot that mid-range and they were yelling at him and stuff. I think if you're the NBA, if you're NBA players and you see that right there is the signal that the problem isn't Carmelo Anthony, it's the Houston Rockets and their dumb system. Yeah. And they found out. Like in 2019, they struggled all year. 2018, the year before, if they just shot some mid ranges instead of missing 27 straight threes, like. Yeah. But you can't reminisce on these things, like. But the mid range, you need it, and I think Harden realized that this year because he shot a lot more of those. But a lot of the great players are in the mid range: Kyrie, KD, CP, Booker, Middleton, LeBron. These guys operate in the mid range.
Yeah.
And the game isn't dead yet. That game is there. And even players that don't shoot mid ranges, they're still taking floaters from the free throw line. Still the mid range, still the middle of the floor.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how that shot was called dead, but it's not. It's really not. It's very prevalent in the game today.
It was just Warriors, 2017, 2016 Warriors.
They shot them too, though. They shot the mid range too.
Yeah,
I think it's more the Rockets.
But like when you see the highlight clips,
like, it's all the threes.
People live for the threes.
Yeah. Anyways, anything else you guys want to talk about tonight?
That's it. I think we're all good.
All right. It's been real. You guys have a good night.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning into today's podcast. Shout out to Kai's Draws for the logo and YouTube banner, and a huge shout out to Vic.Ash for the music. Links to their pages are in the description below. Once again, thanks for listening, and like, comment, and subscribe for more NBA content. And be on the lookout for our podcast following Game 5 of the NBA Finals.